What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 3 ways that wide receivers can always get open. So we're going to be talking about 3 specific things that wide receivers can do in terms of their upper half selling ability, being able to sell routes, being able to restack a route, and then just some of the main keys to be able to get you some separation against off coverage, zone coverage, and press man coverage. So I hope this video gives you some value. Hope it teaches you a few new nuances that you guys can add to your game when it comes to route running. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you're maybe not sure what to do to work on your route running, your press releases, your catching ability to create explosiveness, balance at the top of the route, check out that very first link in the description, fellas, for a 28-day on-field wide receiver workout plan. So what it is, it's 28 days of specific workouts with sets and reps where we break down all the specific drills that you need to do on the field to improve your game. And we include in the video a 30-minute long instructional video where we break down each day of the plan, we break down the importance of each exercise, and then we give you a live example of each drill and how it should be ran with sets and reps, like I said. So very first link in the description, fellas. Hope you guys could check that out. Let's get started with this video. So first things first, you're looking at this route from Kadarius Toney. Yes, I know he dropped the ball, but that's not the main focus. Drops happen, and this guy does not drop the ball when the lights are on, which is what matters, obviously. But we're going to talk about how he's able to get separation on this dude and how he's able to move him off that platform. So when I come off of here and I got a situation where a DB's 5 yards off, or like it just any kind of situation where he's off, I got to make him uncomfortable, right? Because if I can make him uncomfortable, I can get him on those heels. I can really get some separation. So what Toney does right here is the main thing that's always going to get you open. He sells with his entire upper half rather than just giving a head and a shoulder lean. That's what so many receivers do, and the mistake that so many guys make is they'll get to this spot, they'll throw a move, and they just give a little lean. They just literally just dip their head and their shoulder to the inside, but their hips and their shoulders stay square. And a disciplined DB who's watching that hip, watching that torso, he ain't gonna move on that, right? The DB's looking at your hips, so you gotta actually throw your hip, and you gotta commit your shoulders and your hips to this side of the break where you're trying to throw. It's like a crossover. Now, a lot of people will say where Toney's stepping right now, oh, he's stepping too far, right? But now, obviously, Toney's got a ton of explosion, a ton of burst out of there, and he's really driving because he's bringing his upper half. So what you want to think of it is like you got your hip. Like let's say we're trying to set up a DB to the left. We're trying to go to the right. I want to take my left hip and I want to throw my left hip into the cut without opening up my toes. I don't want to open up my hip. I want to throw my hip. And that is the same time with your upper half turning to the break. That's going to get you some separation on this route because that's what's actually going to sell this thing, okay? So we got to make sure, fellas, that we can get to this spot. Now, a lot of this ties into hip flexibility. It ties into your groin being flexible. It ties into ankle and knee stability, right? Somebody asked me the other day, hey, how much do you think athleticism plays into these moves? And I think it does definitely play a part. It helps for sure. Like if you're just naturally a good athlete, you've always been a good athlete, and you're just born that way, you might have an easier time learning this stuff at first, but it eventually all catches up to you, right? It eventually all comes down to the work that you're putting in. And all those workouts that I talk about, all the drill plans that we have, workout plans, those are the specific things that build on those aspects. You know what I mean? You can't just go out there and run this the first time, full speed, just have it perfect. You got to work into it. You got to build up to it. So if you're maybe not the best athlete and you feel like, oh man, I couldn't do these moves, that's not necessarily the case. I've seen it been done before. It just takes work. It takes time, right? I've seen kids that have no experience with wide receiver that have turned into great route runners simply because we have worked those movements over and over again and they've worked their tail off, right? So it's definitely possible to do. Athleticism 100% helps, but to be able to get to this spot, it just takes work, and it takes work to work on those specific things, right? So when I'm able to get to this spot of the break, the thing that makes this guy jump is you see how his shoulders and his hips are both going this way, like I said, but the other main key is that his toes stay forward so he could actually burst out of there, because anybody could get a DB to jump, right? Anybody could get to this spot, but a lot of times guys will get stuck on this cut. One, because maybe they open up their toe. Two, maybe they reached a little bit too far and now they're leaning back. They didn't bring their hip with the cut. So we got to make sure that I bring this whole thing with me. I keep those toes forward so I can burst out. And you see how he does a great job of swatting those hands. We're going to be talking about that later. Some different hand techniques that you guys can use and how you guys can get separation with your hands set up after the feet. But the feet will set up the hands. The feet is the first part of it. The feet get this guy to move. Now the hand technique's easy. I just got to beat that inside arm and then I'm off, right? So now he reassesses himself over the top. And again, look what happens. Top of the break. What's he doing? Shoulders and his hips are committed to this portion of the break. Toes stay forward. Shin angle's on a 45-degree angle to the inside. You don't want to strike the ground on the inside arch of your foot. You want to strike it on like the balls of your feet, but that inside arch is what pushes you out. And you see the amount of separation he's able to get, more than 5 yards of space. That's a great job here by Toney. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job setting him up to the inside, throwing with his upper half, having those 2 explosive cuts to create some separation. So now we're going to be looking at this router from River Craft. I think that's how you say his last name. Not 100% sure. sure, but I'm sure you guys will let me know. But biggest thing about this route is the next thing that's going to help you guys get separation every time you run a route, like especially against man coverage, is restacking the defender, okay? So restacking the defender is one of the main things that sets you up, because you can pretty much do whatever you want with him when you get to that spot. So you see how Kraft sets him up here with this like kind of diamond release. Now this is not something I would normally teach, doing a diamond release if your inside foot was up. Now, a lot of guys like to switch their feet right here. Ball's over here to the inside. A lot of guys switch their feet for timing of a route, right? So now this is almost like a dive release, because he's really only taking 2 steps. He's not taking a diamond. His feet are switched. So it's just 2 steps to the outside, which is fine. That's not going to take forever. He takes one more step, it might take too long. The route's going to be dead because the quarterback's got to get it out of his hands. So this is a great job by Kraft here, but now you see what he does here is when he gets that DB off that platform, he dips this outside shoulder and works to restack, because we know when we could get this DB trailing my back hip and watching my hip, I could do pretty much whatever, like I said. So I could throw a heavy indicator cut, which is what he does. He throws just one cut, and again, very similar things to what we were looking at with Tony. Shoulders and his hips are committed, toes stay forward, shins at a 45 to where he could drive out, or maybe if it's a deeper route, I can hit him with a rocker. I can go inside then outside, or if I want to go an outside breaking route, I go outside then inside. I could work so many different things when I restack the DB, and especially if he doesn't have hands on me, I should win every single time, fellas. A restack is a gift. So if you restack a defender and you don't win, you didn't do something right at the top of the route. He does not want you to restack him. So if I could restack this guy, get back over the top, I got to make sure that I take care of him at the top of this break. And that's exactly what Kraft does right there. Great job. Great example of how restacking can always get you separation. So make sure, fellas, my number one thought process needs to be to restack. Number 2 thought process needs to be I'm selling with that upper half. I'm throwing my hips and my shoulders. I'm working a rocker step, whatever it may be. So those are the first 2 things that can help wide receivers always get open. Watch the thing again, full speed. Great job by Kraft getting this guy off, working to restack with that shoulder reduced technique, and then making this play over the middle. So now, let's talk a little bit about hand technique, okay? So we're going to be looking at this clipper from DeAndre Hopkins. So this is like a walk release. This isn't something that I would necessarily like. I don't stress this. It's not something that I go, okay, we're going to be working walk releases today. I think it's just more of like a variation of a hesitation release, right? So like maybe he's been setting this up all game. Maybe he's been just kind of walking off when he's backside. You know, we don't really actually know. But this is not something I would be running all the time. But this is the same case as like if you were to do like kind of a hesitation hop release, or maybe almost like one of those skip releases that you guys like to see. But he kind of walks off the line here, which again is not something like I would teach again. But we're going to be mainly focusing on the hand technique and what happens when a DB is going to lunge at you and try to choke you off this thing. So let's watch it full speed one more time. So great job walking at him there, being patient, right? And then swatting those hands off. Now let's talk about it. So when I go here and when I give a hesitation move to a DB, right? Whether it's a hop, whether it's a skip, or again, if it's a walk like what Hopkins is going with, and this DB is taught to lunge at me, right? Because he's like, oh, okay, this guy wants to get fancy. He wants to slow everything down. I'm just going to choke him right off the line. I'm going to get physical, as that's what I'm going to do, especially if you're a receiver and you raise your pad level up. Hopkins does a great job of staying in a good pad level while he's slowing things down. Nice strong base. Pad level's kind of arched forward. So if this DB were to get hands, it's not the end of the world. We still have something to give right there. We can't, if we stand straight up in the air and you guys have your chest popped up, you're exposing this number, your chin's up in the air, bam, you're going to get knocked off this thing. You're going to get completely rerouted. And that's obviously what we don't want. So now when I'm here and I'm operating in this range, this DB to get hands, he has to lunge at me. So you see when this DB is trying to choke me and trying to get real physical, look what happens to his base. He leaves his base behind. It's no different than a quarterback who's trying to throw and his legs lock out, right? You guys probably all seen that before. A quarterback standing there and then his legs lock out and he gets up super tall and the ball shoots up super high, right? No different than that. He does not have a strong base right here. He's lunging at him outside of his frame. He's trying to be physical. He's trying to get greedy. And as a receiver, I got to make a DB pay for that. You guys all the time go up against these aggressive DBs who have no technique. They're just bigger dudes. They're strong guys. And they think that they could just push receivers around. And most often than not, they do, because the receiver doesn't know what to do against this situation. He'll just sit there and he'll freak out. He lost before the rep even started because his mind's all screwed up, and he'll get knocked right into the sideline, right? And again, we could sit here and all day and say, oh, it's not real football, but it's still going to happen. But when you got a DB who lunges at you like this, it's a gift. He's off balance. So if you guys have a plan for that and you guys are focused on, okay, I'm going to swat those points of control. What are the points of control? Back of his shoulder, back of his elbow, back of his forearm. Those are the 3 points of control that you want to attack. So if I could hit him here and you see how Hopkins, he's swatting the back of this DB's shoulder, that's what gets him off. When he's off balance, balance and you're able to hit the back of his shoulder, he ends up like this. And then I end up with about how many yards of separation? I got about 3 to 5 yards of separation. Easy money over the middle. I can make this catch and then go make something happen downfield. It's a great job by Hopkins being patient. Great job using that hand technique. And fellas, when you're running a quick slant like this and you're running this like kind of patient situation, you kind of tell by the quarterback here, he's in drop back situation. He's in drop back footwork. This is not a quick slant release. This is not something quick where he's just got to get off the ball right now. This is where the quarterback's maybe going high, back down to low. You're the second or the third read on this play. When you work a hesitation move, that takes a little bit of time. Let's watch the thing again, full speed. Great job by Hopkins attacking the right spots for that DB when he lunges at him and he's outside of his frame and he loses his base. All right, guys, we want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always appreciate things you guys have to say because it helps me come up with new ideas for videos. So if you guys have any video requests, anything like that, don't hesitate to leave those in the comments. I usually do them all if I'm capable of doing them and I can find film on it. So I appreciate it. And again, fellas, 4-week-long on-field wide receiver workout plan. All the specific things wide receivers need to do on the field broken down into sets, reps. We give an instructional video, 30 minutes long, where we break down each day of the plan, the specific drills, why we do those drills, and then a live example of each one. So I hope you guys could check that out. Very first link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.